Alex Hormozi has built and exited multiple businesses for tens of millions of dollars. His portfolio companies do over $200 million in yearly revenue, and a large part of this comes from his email marketing strategy. As someone who's worked with over 180 e-commerce brands and generated over $100 million in email marketing revenue alone, I was naturally curious about what he had to say about the channel. In this video, we'll be breaking down all of Alex's advice about email marketing and how you can apply this to your business to make more money. And right at the end, I'll reveal the exact email campaign series Hormozi uses every single week in his own marketing that you can adapt for your own business. Let's get into it. Let's dive into some of Alex's points.
A lot of the market of email marketers has actually shifted towards tracking CTR over open rates. And I think the biggest reason for that was because Apple privacy laws have made it very difficult to track open rates.
Here, Alex is talking about how people are now tracking click rates instead of open rates, and he couldn't be more right. Because of changes that happened way back in iOS 14, open rates got a lot harder to track. Essentially, for a lot of people who are using iPhones, Apple privacy now will automatically open emails to trigger the pixel even if someone didn't do it. So you can get a discrepancy in how many people actually opened your email, and the number isn't truly accurate. So for benchmarking your emails, this has now become a poor metric. Although we would still heavily use open rates as a North Star indicator on the deliverability of the account, or to actually compare subject lines relative to each other. Because even though it might be inflated, say you have the same group of people and you send one campaign to them that gets a 30% open rate and one that gets a 40% open rate, there's a clear difference in the performance of that subject line. But click rates are the gold standard of engagement. If someone clicks your email, that is the ultimate signal that they are interested in what you have to say. You can also inflate open rates by using really crafty or deceiving subject lines to essentially sell the open. But if the content of the email is not good, people aren't going to click. Let's take a look at the second clip now.
I was a moron and decided to not email for the vast majority of my life because I hate money, apparently. And so the average ROI for email, depending on the source you look at, is between 35 and 45 return. So that means that for every dollar you spend on software or putting time into your email, you can get like $45 back.
Now, this is exactly why Hormozi is so bullish on email marketing. On average, email has a 45x ROI, meaning for every dollar you spend on your email marketing, you're getting $45 back. The reason for that is once you're paying for an email software, it doesn't really cost you any additional money to send more emails. So your only real cost is the software and any labor that goes into sending emails for you. Now compare this to ads like Google or Facebook, where you'd be really lucky to get a 3 or 4x return, and many brands even have to operate at break even just to acquire customers. Email starts to look a lot more healthy. Platforms like Meta and Google are also incentivized to make the most amount of money possible. They obviously want to get you a return, but their CPMs are rising by 60 or 70% every single year. Meanwhile, your email list is an asset you actually own. You don't have to pay Zuckerberg to contact your list. It's sitting there right there. It's an asset for your business. Now, obviously, you need traffic from ads and Google and TikTok or wherever to actually have an email list in the first place. So this isn't to say go and scrap all of your paid marketing and just focus on email, but you should heavily be investing in email because of the possible returns you can get. Especially once your email marketing starts tapping into your repeat customers, the profitability from the channel skyrockets as you've already incurred the acquisition cost on that customer. All right, let's look at his next point.
Every time you send a communication out, there's going to be people who unsubscribe. And I don't see unsubscribing nearly as negatively as other people do. And I'll explain why. When I look at our people who show up to workshops, a lot of times they are people who unsubscribed. So it's not an insult. It's like they know who I am and they're in. I don't see it as a negative per se. Also, every single day, thousands of people unsubscribe from my Instagram, thousands of people unsubscribe from YouTube, but I just have more people who subscribe. And so I just see the process of advertising is letting people know about your stuff. And so if someone unsubscribes, they absolutely know about you and your stuff. And it doesn't necessarily mean they don't want to buy. It just might not mean that that form of communication or that particular inbox they opted in with is the one that they want to use.
Now, this is probably his most contrarian email marketing point and goes against what a lot of people believe. Most people want to grow their email list. They want to see the number go up, so they think more subscribers equals more money, and every subscriber they lose is a bad thing. But this is completely wrong. I've seen brands that have email lists of 200 or 300,000 people getting completely outperformed by brands with email lists of 40 or 50,000 people. This is because your list quality matters so much more than your list size. Now, obviously, the goal is to have a really big email list that is really high quality, but you shouldn't be sacrificing quality just for the size of your list. If you're trying to avoid unsubscribes or make it difficult for people to unsubscribe, you're going to get to a point where people are not opening your emails, they're potentially marking them as spam, and you're just paying for a bunch of profiles, because most of the softwares you pay per profile you have, to sit on your list and never buy from you. And guess what? Platforms like Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, they're all very smart now and they can pick up on engagement signals. If they know lots of people are marking you as spam or people aren't even opening your emails, they're going to be more likely to send you to the spam folder. And suddenly your deliverability tanks and you're actually landing in the spam folder for a good portion of your email list, and people who actually want to see your emails no longer can. We want to let people unsubscribe, get the people who don't want to be here off our list. We just need to make sure we're growing our list faster than we're losing subscribers, which is why ads are really important. Let's head to the last clip and then I'm going to show you the series he's been using to keep his list engaged every single week for the past couple of years.
I think that having basically a continued interest CTA and then have a I want to take action and buy CTA are not terrible ideas to have in an email. And so I'm not saying like, I'm not one of these people who's like, only have one link, only have one CTA. I think you can have more than one, but it's more that you only want to have one per audience or per objective. Now, if you have 5, then that can get, kind of aggressive overall, but I think 1 or 2, you're safe as long as there's a clear reason that someone would click one versus the other.
Now, historically, I actually would have disagreed with Hormozi on this point because I'm a big believer in one clear call to action per email. But the point Hormozi makes here is right. It holds the same principle. We want our call to actions to be as clear as possible. So if you want to include 2, it's not the end of the world, but they need to be distinctly different. For example, say you're sending an email about your personal training program or about your supplements. If you want to have 2 CTAs, one to a fat loss product or service and one to a muscle gain product or service, you can include those 2 call to actions, but make them distinctly different and not confuse the avatar. For example, you'd say, if you want to lose fat, click this link. But if you want to gain muscle, click this link. The avatar's not going to be confused. They know what they want to do and they know where to click. Where you fall into trouble is when you're a brand who, say, sends an email and you're like, we just launched this new product, but this collection is on sale. We're also running this bundle. Also join our VIP list here. And if you haven't already, our loyalty program is here. Then you have 5 or 6 different call to actions. No one really knows where to click. And then you actually reduce your click rate because you've created too much friction. Your email has one job: to get the click. And everything you should be doing is to make that as frictionless as possible. So if you need to have multiple CTAs, just make sure it's very clear who should click what. Now, this is where it gets interesting. I promised I was going to reveal the series Hormozi personally uses every single week to keep his list engaged. I think it's one of the best email series in the world. So it's called the Mosy Minute, and the genius is in the simplicity. Let me run you through it. So this is the Mosy Minute email series. It's essentially an email that he sends every so often, which is a 1-minute actionable insight for business owners. One thing you'll notice that Hormozi says a lot in his marketing or in his videos is to delay the ask. Essentially, the longer that you can provide value for free without asking for something in return or asking someone to give you money, the more money you'll be able to ask for, or the more money you'll make in due time. This is essentially what he's doing with this series. He's providing value for an extended amount of time without asking for anything. And you would have noticed this in the lead up to his book launch. He was absolutely hammering this series and providing as much value as possible. So when it came time to launch his book, he sent about, 6 or 7 emails in one day, which led to his $100 million book launch. Firstly, a good series does 3 things. It trains the open, it's repeatable, and it makes you familiar to the reader. Now, I'll unpack these in a second, but to achieve these 3 things, what you actually need to make sure you're doing with your series is you need to make sure the content is fantastic or the content is great. Because if the content's not great and you start a series, people are going to be like, oh, cool, a series, this seems valuable, and you're going to get a short-term spike in opens. But as soon as they realize the content's shit or it's not actually actionable, it's going to dwindle off and you're going to churn readers and churn subscribers. Whereas if you make your content great, your engagement is going to slowly go up and up and up and up and up, and you're going to continue to be able to capitalize on that for a long time to come. But going back to these 3 points, what do these actually mean? When someone opens a series and they enjoy the content and it's good, you're training them to open all of your emails. Think about it. They open Mosy Minute and they get a really actionable insight. You're training their brain to go, this was valuable. Mosy Minute is a good series. You release some psychological trigger or some sort of dopamine associated with this series. So next time you send Mosy Minute, they're going to be like, oh, this was really good last time. And they're going to be more likely to open it again. This is what helps you sustain the engagement, like in this little dodgy graph that I drew down here. Secondly, it's repeatable. So it's very easy for you to use this as a content pillar repeatably. It doesn't get old. It's something that you can just pull together every single week. You have a template, and as a business or as a business owner, it becomes quite easy for you to make content in these pillars because you become so familiar with it and you're not constantly on the hamster wheel of trying to come up with new ideas. Hormozi would know, when in doubt, just send a Mosy Minute. And lastly, it's familiar. Now, obviously everyone knows who Alex Hormozi is, who's on his email list. But if you're someone who's starting a series and it's very valuable, similar to training the open, people actually become familiar with your name and who you are in the inbox. So you're no longer a stranger to them. And when your name pops up, they're going to be more likely to open all of your other emails. So when it comes to things like doing his book launch, even if he doesn't lead with a Mosy Minute subject line, people are still going to be really likely to open the emails because they've become familiar with Hormozi in the inbox and they're going to be more likely to open it. Whereas say you're a supplement brand who's never emailed your subscribers or very rarely emails your subscribers, every time you go into the inbox, you're essentially a stranger and you're trying to build engagement from the ground up. Whereas someone like Hormozi has trained the open through all of his emails and let people know that Mosy Minute's a really valuable series. They become familiar with his name, and then these two things snowball and you lead to a point where nearly every single email you send is going to get a really high open rate and really high performance. Training the open for the series is delaying the ask. And then because of this familiarity, when it comes time to ask for money, everyone says yes. Now you might be wondering, what sort of cadence does Hormozi send on? And this is where it gets interesting. Hormozi has said himself, he only sends emails if he knows he has good content to send. Like I said, these series have to be great. The minute you send a bad email, you risk churning a lot of subscribers because you've lost that trust with them. So what you'll actually notice is the cadence is very random. There was a 2-day gap here, a 6-day gap here, a 2-day gap here, 4-day gap here, 3-day gap here, 5-day gap here. It varies every single time. He's not holding himself to say, I need to send something weekly or I need to send something every 3 days, but he's doing it consistently. He's doing it regularly. The time intervals, yes, they vary, but he's not forcing himself to write content because he doesn't want to write bad content. He'll just write when he has a good idea. So how can you apply this to your business? It's very easy to come up with a series. There's a million series you can come up with. It can be like a Mosy Minute, which is essentially, we'll call that a tip of the week. You can give some sort of random insight. It doesn't even need to be weekly. You can just start a series of insights or founder insights. You can start a behind the scenes series. You can start a product development series. You can start a customer of the week, where you touch on a customer transformation or some sort of UGC or something in your community that really stood out to you. If you want it to be promotional, these actually work really well if you're trying to sell things. You can do a deal of the week. Now, this isn't so much delaying the ask, but if you're sort of a lower AOV product like e-com or something, like having a deal or a product of the week can still work really well for consistent sales. When I was first starting email marketing, we had a coffee syrup brand where we did a Friday flavor series. And every Friday we'd pick one flavor to showcase for 20% off, and every Friday baseline sales would jump by like 4 or 5K for this small business. Having a series for your business is one of the most valuable tools you can use for all of these reasons. Like I said, it's easy for you to pump these out. Once you have a pillar in the calendar, you'll get very familiar, you'll get very good, you'll have a template you can use. You train people to open every other email in your series, provided the content is good. And then your name becomes familiar in their inbox, so no matter what you send, you've won a lot of trust and a lot of rapport with your subscribers. So when you do want to sell, you've delayed the ask and you make tons of money. Coming up with a series, it's very simple. You don't need to hold yourself to a crazy cadence, but it is very easy if you do pick some sort of regular cadence you can stick to. Weekly is really good, fortnightly is really good, or you can even do monthly recaps or monthly newsletters. These also work really good, provided they're valuable and not selfish touch points. So to summarize Hormozi's email playbook, firstly, track your click rates as your main measurement of engagement. Don't get too caught up in open rates. Secondly, email has a 45x ROI and could be the most profitable channel in your business, so you need to treat it that way. Thirdly, make unsubscribing easy. A healthy list beats a dead list every single day of the week. Fourth, have a super clear, concise CTA per email you send. The reader needs to know exactly where you want them to click. And lastly, steal the Mosy Minute playbook. Use a series in your email list to get heightened engagement and to train people to open your emails. If you're an e-commerce brand and you want us to audit your Klaviyo account and show you exactly where and how much money you're leaving on the table, click the link in the description. It's completely free. I'll put together a comprehensive audit personally and show you where all the gaps are in your account. And if you want to see more email marketing content like this, subscribe to my channel and I'll see you in the next one.